Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, with my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin. No worry, guys. And here we are, live at Citi Field. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. This is our first ever broadcast that we're here in person, in the flesh. As you can see, we're the ballpark like right in front of me. This is definitely a far cry from where usually when the usual locations you see me in my house, either somewhere in my room or my backyard. We're actually here right in person in the flesh.
Exactly, right here at Citi Field for the first time. This is actually the first time that we've been at Citi Field together since August of 2019. So it's been almost 5 years since this has happened, thanks to the pandemic.
Yeah, unfortunately, like circumstances happen. But yeah, thanks. This is the first time in like ages, and it's hard to believe how it's a stark difference between how the Mets were back then and now. Like then, it's like it was a season we came up just a few wins short of getting to the playoffs. It was like we were starting to see some life from this from that Mets team around that time. Like I hadn't seen the Mets that good since like 2016, and I was excited about it. The Mets were on the up and up. Now we're in a situation where this year is like a transition year.
Absolutely, and we were hoping that the second half of this year would kind of have a run like 2019 had, where, you know, they kind of get back into the mix after a tough first half, but that just wasn't the case, right, Dan? I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, they traded Scherzer, they traded Verlander, and now for these last 40, 45 games of the year, we're kind of just hoping that they don't, blow their draft position next year, right?
Yeah, pretty much. This is the first time I've recalled seeing the Mets out of contention the last 2 months of the season since 2017. 2018 was the last time I remember seeing the Mets this far, like pretty much out of contention during the second half of the season.
That's true. They got that really hot start under Mickey Callaway, and then completely fell apart that year. Injuries didn't, help things, but yeah. This definitely is very reminiscent of those seasons, Dan. You're right about that. And we're going to actually head inside in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I did want to ask you your opinion on the Yankees, too, man. I mean, obviously we're here at Citi Field. So this is going to be kind of a Mets-heavy episode. But, the Yankees now, 60-60. If they lose tonight to the Atlanta Braves and get swept, which, hey, if anybody can sympathize with getting swept by the Braves, it's us. Now, if the Yankees lose tonight and fall to 60-61, this will be the first time since 1992 that the Yankees are under 500 this late in the season. That's a crazy stat, right?
Yeah, that is crazy. It would be that. I've never seen such a lifeless. I haven't seen a Yankees team this lifeless since I don't know. I think maybe the last couple of years before they made the year before the last time they made the playoffs.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. You're right about that. And I mean, they've missed a couple of times in recent years, but it was never like this. I mean, in those years that they missed under like Joe Girardi in 13, 14, and 16, the team at least tried to make you believe they were going to contend. I mean, if you remember in 2016 when the Yankees traded away Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs and got back all these young guys like Gleyber Torres, they brought up a young kid by the name of Gary Sanchez who went on a tear for the rest of that year, and the Yankees didn't get eliminated from the playoffs until about a week before the season ended.
Yeah, so this is kind of odd. I've had to explain to some people who are maybe a bit too young to understand the Yankees not being so far out of contention that, yeah, this actually does happen to baseball teams. You might have not seen it that much. You may have gone through so many championships in your life, and most of your life, but there's actually such thing as a team not being a playoff contender. I told that I said that once to a Yankees fan my sister's age.
And believe it or not, it looks like that's going to be the Yankees this year, joining our Mets in not making the playoffs. Right now, the Mets 54 and 66, 12 games under 500. They split the first two games of the series, but they're going for the series victory today against the Pittsburgh Pirates. At this point, Dan, what are you rooting for? And I know, look, we're Mets fans. We root for Mets wins, even when it doesn't really make sense. But I see a lot of Met fans rooting for losses to help them in the draft positioning. What are you rooting for now? Are you rooting for losses, or are you rooting for the Mets to win every day, no matter what?
Well, the unique thing about the baseball draft, it's such a crapshoot that it really isn't really the draft positioning. Really doesn't really do much with the baseball draft. It kind of does and kind of doesn't at the same time. But baseball, we've seen lower draft picks become big stars. I mean, look at we've had some examples in Mets history. A couple of good examples, some great Jacob deGrom, very low expectations. He became probably one of the greatest pitchers in Mets history. Probably one day when you go into that Mets, sometime years from now, when you walk into the museum area of Citi Field, you're gonna see a plaque with the Jacob deGrom's picture next to those plaques of all those Met greats. Another one that was like very low draft pick is a Pete Alonso. He flew under the radar, but he just somehow managed to just play, and pretty much he went through the mentality of putting up numbers, and he's become one of the greatest Mets of all time in history. And hopefully, if he sticks around long enough, he's gonna break a lot more team records.
That's true. I mean, Pete Alonso is a second-round pick, so you wouldn't necessarily have to finish in the top 5 or whatever it is to get a guy like that. You're 100% right.
Another one, even go further. Well, this guy, he came to the Mets via trade, but this guy really came in with like very low expectations, and thanks to the fact that his godfather happened to be manager of the Dodgers, he was just given a shot. This guy was by the name of Mike Piazza.
That's right, 62nd round draft pick.
And we fast forward to today, you look up there with the retired numbers, you're seeing a number 31 hanging up there with the retired numbers, and you go to Cooperstown, there's a plaque with his face on it.
That's right next to some of the greatest catchers of all time, like Johnny Bench and Yogi Berra. So Mike Piazza found his way in the Hall of Fame. Not being a high draft pick, maybe the Mets will be doing the same thing with, not as high a draft pick. But hey, if they finish in the top 10, or I'm sorry, the top 7, they're locked in either way. So we're going to head inside right now. We'll catch you guys in a little bit. For Rob Cramer and Daniel Bobo Curlin, this is the Best Seat in the House podcast. And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again. Me and Dan are now inside Citi Field, as you can hear, and we got a lot of great stuff going on here right now. Dan, being here for this game today, Tyler McGill against Johan Oviedo for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Oviedo's got some pretty good stuff, but Tyler McGill's got some pretty good stuff of his own, right?
Yeah, he's got. I wish Tyler McGill could find it, because before this guy got hurt, I just feel like, I don't know if it's his going through, I guess, trying to get the rust off of that injury, but I feel like that injury killed whatever momentum he had. Because prior to that injury, we were comparing him to deGrom.
Yeah, he was right on track with deGrom. You're right, for a long time. I mean, especially last year when deGrom was out for that first month, you could make the case that McGill was among the team MVPs, right?
Yeah, and the guy was part of only the second no-hitter in team history with that combined no-hitter on April 29th, 2022.
You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. So we're here enjoying the Pirates-Mets game right now.
3 was Hank Aaron's model.
Stewart drives one to deep right field, back toward the wall, and it's out of here. DJ Stewart strikes again. Pinch hit home run last night, and he delivers the keynote today to give the Mets a 1-0 lead. On walk, it's DJ Stewart to the plate. And there's another one, and Stewart gets on it, deep right center. Back goes Joe onto the warning track at the wall. It's out of here! DJ Stewart's first hit of the year against a lefty is a 2-run homer. How about that? Second home run of the day for Stewart, his third in 2 days. And the Mets now lead at 6-2.
If they don't win, it's a shame. And it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
And wound up marrying Tony Curtis.
You know the story of when Ralph met Jamie Lee Curtis.
Say it again?
I said, you know the story when Ralph. That's drilled to left by Alonso, back to the wall, and it's out of here. A line drive home run for Alonso. Number 36 for Pete. That got out in half a second.
Well,
7-3 New York.
And welcome back to Best Seat in the House podcast. Thanks, everybody, for checking out our special edition episode live from Citi Field. Dan, I mean, it was a pretty interesting experience. You know, we wanted to do a little wrap up from Citi Field after the game, which the Mets won 8-3 today. Awesome game, awesome seats for us. You know, what do you think, Dan? What was your impressions of doing a little broadcasting from Citi Field today? That was pretty cool, right?
That was an epic experience. I was looking forward to finally getting to do that, and we did that. Hopefully it's the first of many that we'll get to do over the years, because that was just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I think the microphones that we were using worked pretty good, and I think that for the most part, everything came out pretty well. You know, it's just a shame. Unfortunately, we had designs early on of doing that from, you know, a pregame Citi Field. We had a couple of discussions with the Mets. Apparently, nothing really went that far down the line. I guess they kind of forgot about us. And then when we followed back up, it was already too late. So, unfortunately, you know, that didn't work out. But I think the outcome, albeit short, was pretty fun, though. And on top of it all, the Mets won today, right, Dan? So we saw a bunch of home runs. You know, we're seeing some pop from this guy, DJ Stewart, who's been up in the big leagues for a few weeks. The Mets now starting to stretch his legs. And, of course, that line drive home run for Pete Alonso, right?
That was just epic getting to see that. I mean, I cannot express how great those seats are. I mean, Section 110's a great section to sit at if you've ever sat there. I even find out, I've heard parts of Section 110 apparently are rated from Time Magazine as one of the best spots to catch a foul ball, apparently.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, actually. You know, we saw some foul balls coming back our way. Unfortunately, you know, the net ended up knocking a couple of them down. But, yeah, I could definitely see that. More of the pop fly ones rather than the line drives. But, yeah, man, very fun game today. You know, we were talking about Tyler McGill earlier in the show when we were doing our little breakdown. Johan Oviedo was the matchup against Tyler McGill today. You know, Oviedo's, despite his record, he's 6-12 with a 4.5 ERA. You wouldn't think much of the guy, but he'd actually won 3 consecutive starts and had looked pretty good for the last month or so. And I think even despite some hard luck early on, that guy's got some pretty decent talent for a 25-year-old pitcher on a losing ball club. But it was good to see some fight out of Tyler McGill today too, right, Dan? I mean, he gave up that 2-run shot that we saw opposite field to Reynolds that kind of made us a little nervous when they had a 3-0 lead, cut it to 3-2. But the Mets were able to hold them. You know, McGill specifically was able to hold them, albeit through 5, and get the win today.
Yeah, it's not bad. Wish he would have been doing this all year long, because maybe maybe it would have been a different an entire different reason why the 7 train was crowded, besides the fact that this train was the train in front of it was having problems, and this train that I was on was a result of it, and they had to pick up passengers from the other train that had broke down. And by the time the train got moving that I was on, it was more packed than what would normally be. I mean, a post-game train is usually crowded. This was the equivalent of the crowd of 2 post-game trains. And I was more squashed than usually am on that train. And it was a shy relief when it finally stopped at Woodside. And I got what normally is 1 hour, a little bit over about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour, to about 1 hour for me to get to Citi Field by public transportation from there to from my house to Citi Field and back. It's about that time. Got home maybe took like maybe 2 hours, maybe I don't know, maybe 3. I lost track of how long it took. I was like, that for the that had I'd never seen a trip to Citi Field take from there to home take that long in my life.
Wow, that's crazy that it was that bad. I mean, I was telling you also off air about my trip home, and I drove. It was a quick ride in, man. It took me about 35 minutes to drive in there. And unfortunately, the ride home was not so easy. It was about an hour 45 or so on the way home. And hitting every bit of traffic possible. So it looks like it was just a miserable day getting out of there today.
You were on your return trip. To be fair, you were the post game traffic intersected with rush hour traffic. As what happens with these weekday day games, actually, it's because of that.
True.
When I've gone to games that are on a day game, one of the things is because of the rush hour traffic, they can't run the post game express trains that they normally run because it's at the same time of rush hour traffic. They don't run those post game express. So usually I could go every other day than a weekday day game. I can get on the train. I can get on that post game express. Next stop will be Woodside, and next stop's Woodside. Waiting for the bus, and then the bus rides quick once again the bus. But this was a local, and that was having breakdowns.
Yeah, that's the problem over there. But it was worth it, even though it was a pain in the butt for us to get home. It was worth it to go out there and check the game out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was worth it. I'd do it again if that's what it's.
Exactly, and that's why we're diehards.
I even admit if that happened after I saw the Mets win the World Series, I would not even have a problem with a breakdown on the way home. If I saw the Mets win the World Series in person, I would have no problem. Because hey, I got to see the Mets win a World Series. I'm not stress over this breakdown. I got to see it happen in person.
Exactly. Let's be honest. If I got to see the Mets win the World Series in person, I would sit through 2 days of traffic just to be able to see that. I probably wouldn't leave Citi Field for a couple of days just because I'd be so out of my mind that the unthinkable actually happened. So, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, whenever that happens, I just know whether it be next year or the year after. I have no idea how I'm going to react. Let's put it this way. Okay, I'm sure you don't know how you're going to react. I don't have an idea how to react. I just know anyone around me when it happens, it's just be ready for however I'm going to react. That's all I can tell
you. Exactly. But yeah, man, so just to get back to the game of the day, 8-3 victory by the Mets. What other takeaways did you have today, Dan? I think, if I could point to a couple of things, I really liked seeing that base hit by Francisco Lindor, driving in a couple of runs. I know a lot of Met fans want to take the shot at him that he's producing now when it doesn't matter, and same thing with Pete Alonso. And there is some truth to that. But you know what? It's just good to see these guys get the job done. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to knock the guy for getting a big hit against Pittsburgh. This is what he's paid to do, and I'm glad to see Francisco Lindor go out there and come through in the clutch, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just glad. I mean, I understand. I mean, before you knock anything, guys, trying to hit a baseball is a lot harder than you think. Also, I could tell that they were kind of feeling the weight of the world on them a little bit. And I mean, I could even tell, like, Alonso, maybe after that wrist injury, he felt he had to make up for lost time. I felt like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He, Alonso and Lindor know that as they go, so goes the Mets. You know what I mean? Like that old saying. It's like, if those guys aren't doing it, look, Nimmo's a great player. We all love Brandon Nimmo. We all agree that he should have been paid and was. Brandon Nimmo can't be the guy that carries the team. He's not that type of player, driving in runs wise. He'll score a lot of runs, no doubt about it, but he's not going to be the guy driving them in. Jeff McNeil, I don't know. I used to have a lot more confidence in Jeff McNeil, but it seems like he's a year on, year off kind of guy now. Who knows? Hopefully next year he'll come back and be that 300 hitter again, but we haven't seen him yet this year. So he's been hit or miss. And, the rest of the lineup, obviously Alvarez is a big bat, and Beatty's not back up, but he will be eventually. Vientos is unproven. So, if you look at that lineup now, if Lindor and Alonso aren't doing the job, nobody really is going to be, right?
Yeah, that. I also feel like there was a lot of extra. I feel like there was a lot of extra pressure during this year. I mean, the pitching was strapped for this team. I feel that was like a trickle down effect. How many times are we going to have to come from behind? It felt like.
Yep. And you mentioned it earlier when you specifically said if Tyler McGill had pitched better, maybe we wouldn't be in this spot. And you could not be more right about that, Dan, because I feel like, look, people want to talk about Verlander and Scherzer. Put Scherzer and Verlander's numbers together for this season, and while it might not be worth the $86 million their combined salaries were this season, it'd be decent numbers. You could get by having those two guys anchor your rotation if you have decent pieces around them. And the fact is, aside from Senga, nobody else in this rotation was a decent piece. A decent piece this year. Carlos Carrasco has been a disaster. David Peterson has been terrible. Tyler McGill, as you alluded to earlier, terrible. So yeah, it's nice to see him finally come through this year.
Yeah. Another thing, I feel like the bullpen has a trickle down effect. I feel like the team was under a lot of pressure. Can we score enough runs that this bullpen can hold off?
Oh, no doubt about that. Because, with you said it, and we've been saying it all year, no doubt about it, that the trickle down effect, you nailed it, and that's the trickle down effect that we're talking about. Is from Edwin Diaz being out and everybody else having to step up. Now, obviously, it's even taken to a crazier extent now that David Robertson's not here anymore. But, the fact of the matter is the Mets bullpen has not been great all year, and they have not sustained well since Edwin Diaz went down. The only guy that was holding up his end of the bargain was Robertson this year, and he's no longer here. So, it's true, man. The bullpen. And, it falls on a lot of things this year. And it's just the recipe to a really, really bad and forgettable Mets season, right?
Yeah. As we said earlier in the show, I said that this is the first. I haven't seen a team this out of contention with this much season left since 2018. It's the last time I recall. After from 2019 all the way till even it's like it felt like at least to the last couple of weeks of the season, you felt like the team had a chance. This is the first time in a long time that at this point of the season we're out of contention.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because look, 2019 they were alive. 2020 was a weird year, and they were still in it until a week or two left in the season for the most part, because everybody was. It was a short year. 2021, I mean, hey, they were at this point they were still leading the National League East, and until they blew it, and so they were still considered contenders. Remember, they traded one of their top prospects, Pete Crow Armstrong, for Javi Baez to try to really go for it, kind of the opposite of what they did this season. And obviously 2022, they won 101 games, made the playoffs. So you're right. It's been a while since we've been in this position. And to be honest, I really have to say that I thought these days were behind us, and it really sucks that, it's August 16th and we know the Mets are done and buried. And they just won 3 out of 4, and it's not a good thing. That's the thing that really sucks, is that the Mets have won 3 out of 4, and all they've done, in my eyes right now, that sucks to think this way, is hurt their draft position. Because if the Mets don't finish with a bottom 6 record, or bottom 7, as we were saying earlier, then the Mets are going to get pushed back 10 spots. So if they finish with the 8th worst record in baseball, they're still not going to be drafting until 18th. That's a bottom second half pick for a bottom barrel team. And that's not a way to have sustained success, or the sustained success that Steve Cohen keeps talking about, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, as I said it earlier in the show, the draft in baseball is a lot different than a lot of other sports. It's like a crapshoot. You see a lot more lower draft picks have success than higher draft picks sometimes, because it's not like the football. Like a lot of these guys you see immediately, like if they're gonna have an impact, they'll have like an impact immediately. A lot of these guys, some of these times you see a first round draft pick never really made it to the big leagues. It's a real crapshoot, the draft.
You're right. And that's why I see people talk about a couple of these guys that the Mets got. Now I feel really good about Acuna, but those other guys the Mets got from the Astros, yeah, they might be good. They might turn out to be like George Springer, or whatever other major leaguers they've been compared to, serviceable, good major leaguers. But they also might be, like you said, guys that never go beyond a certain level, and certainly don't even make a splash in the majors. So let's just hope that that Billy Epler got the right guys, and that's all that really matters. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could have to say we got a bit of a surplus of catchers, so I could see maybe one of these might be moved to a bigger piece.
That's a good point too. That's a very good point, because we do have a surplus of shortstops and catchers. So hey, let's be positive about it. And the Mets have more weapons, and they have more capital, and let's just hope that they put it in the right direction, and that Steve Cohen has hired the right guys. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Dan. And we're going to keep moving along here. And just to touch in, we were talking about earlier when we were at the game about the Yankees and their continued quest to stay above 500 late in this season. And right now it's not starting off good. The Yankees try to salvage this series against Atlanta, and they already trail 2-0, top of the 4th inning. Eddie Rosario hit a 2-run shot. So things aren't starting off good. It looks like the Yankees are in jeopardy of dropping to 60 and 61. That'll be the first time since 1992 when Buck Showalter was managing the Yankees, although everybody knew at the time that it wasn't Buck's fault. They were on a long-term plan trying to create the dynasty they did. And who knows, Dan, maybe right now Buck Showalter is the captain of the ship of a Mets team that is a couple of years away from the dynasty, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I have a feeling with Steve Cohen's money, we're going to be on our way to that a lot sooner than we expected. You could see the beginnings of it even next year. And
That's true.
Has to be also with Buck Showalter, because I feel like when managers are a certain age, like a veteran manager like Buck Showalter, I feel he's only going to stick around as long as they can put a competitive team on the field, I feel like.
You're right. You're right, man.
Buck, I mean, you can say what you want about Buck. The guy has come close to winning the World Series. He wants to finally get that championship. And
that's true. That's true. He's not getting any younger, so definitely Buck wants to get that championship. But I have to take the blame on this one because I steered the ship back to the Mets on that one, not you. That was me. So I tried to turn to the Yankees, and of course, we're on the Yankees for 30 seconds. Boom, right back to the Mets. So let's talk about the Yankees for a second here, because I know some of our fans like to hear our thoughts on the Yankees. So let's take a look, Dan, real quick. Right now, if they lose tonight, this is their 5th consecutive loss. As we were saying, first time since 1992 under 500 this late in the year. What do you think, Dan? If you're in Hal Steinbrenner's shoes, you just signed Brian Cashman to a big extension last year. They decided to keep, Aaron Boone. What's your move right now? Do you get rid of the GM? Do you get rid of the manager? Do you keep both? What do you think?
I think Aaron Boone is on the hot seat on this one. I feel like.
But can you really blame Aaron Boone, though? I mean, look, I don't think Aaron Boone is the best manager in baseball, and far from it. But look at the team the guy's been given. I mean, on paper, a lot of time, the Yankees look good. But when you look at these lineups the Yankees have been running out there, aside from Aaron Judge, I mean, DJ LeMahieu is shot. They have not gotten a good year. They got a decent first 2 months out of Anthony Rizzo, but he has been shot since May. And that concussion's to blame. But, I mean, still, you look at the rest of this team, they're getting a decent year out of Glaber. They missed 2 months out of Judge. Who knows what the heck is going on with Giancarlo Stanton. And the Yankees' pitching rotation stinks. They can't keep their lefties, Nestor Cortez and Rodon healthy. Luis Severino might be the worst pitcher in baseball right now. And that's not a stretch. I mean, he literally might be the worst pitcher in baseball. By the way, he has a win against the Mets this year. Let's not forget that. But he is the worst pitcher in baseball. And, what do you think, Dan? I mean, I can't sit here. I don't like Aaron Boone, but I can't sit here and blame Aaron Boone for this mess because I have been a big defender of Cashman for years. I always said Brian Cashman was the best the best GM in baseball. But what he has done with this Yankee roster since the 2017 season has been a disgrace. The Yankees should have 2 championships hanging on the wall since then.
Yeah, I think Brian Cashman is probably going to be either fired or be on the hot seat next year.
Well, so but let me ask you though, if you were Hal, if you were in his shoes, the Yankees owner, Daniel Curlin, and you're looking at, okay, I just signed, Cashman to this extension. At the end of this year, do you go back to the George Steinbrenner roots, the boss, and do you say, I don't care that I just signed you? Missing the playoffs and finishing under 500 as the Yankees is unacceptable. Do you get rid of him? Or are you going to stay in more the Hal mode and say, you know what, he's been here for a long time. This is the first time that this team is bottomed out. I'm going to give him another chance. If it was you, what do you think?
I feel like it would be time to fire him. It's just
Yeah.
he hasn't produced the results we expected for years. I'd be, I'd fire him, and I'd probably say some weird shit about my past, like the Seinfeld character.
Very true. Very true. I can hear you on that, man. No doubt about it. So yeah, I think and just to give my answer, I would have fired Cashman last year. After last season, after that sweep by the Astros, there's no way I give Cashman that extension. So hey, look, I defended Brian Cashman for years, but I can't any longer. This is the Yankees we're talking about, not the Mets. All right, let's keep it moving along here. And just to round out the episode now, we're going to finish up with a little football, little Giants and Jets. Dan, the Giants are getting ready for another preseason game this week. They lost against Detroit in their first one. Coming out of that game, did you have any impressions? I mean, look, you can't take anything away from the Giants for losing that game. That was they didn't have anybody playing. There wasn't anything aside from third and fourth string guys fighting for spots. But coming out of that game, 21-16 loss. By the way, the same loss, the same score that the Jets lost by in their first game, the Hall of Fame game against Cleveland, which is a little interesting, I guess. What was your take coming out of that game?
I looked like a team that was kind of looked like they were kind of forming that. They seem to be playing a little bit better, making some big third down plays. So I feel there's something really good brewing here, like this training camp. And
I don't disagree.
And that the second preseason game, this one's really going to be a more telling one, because this is going to be the one that you really want to keep an eye on, because the starters are going to get some playing time here in this one.
That's right, and the Giants are playing on Friday against Carolina at MetLife, so Giants get to take it easy and go to the stadium on Friday night, and Friday night 7:00 get Carolina. Speaking of Carolina, the Jets just beat them last week 27-0, so you know that they're going to be out for a little redemption. So it's kind of good that the Giants are getting them in this way, because you're facing a motivated team. You know what I mean? Like, that Carolina wants to go out and have a good show, test the Giants a little bit, and in the preseason, that's what you want, especially when the Giants are going to be giving some first team reps to guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think they wanted. This is where this preseason game. This is where you really, I guess, start to maybe get in the mindset of playing to win a game.
Exactly.
This technically is two preseason games. This one's the game you kind of want to play to carry the momentum going into the season opener.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And one thing that can help the Giants carry that momentum is that it looks like their tackle, Evan Neal, is out of concussion protocol. He might have he's a very good tackle, but he might not have lived up to a lot of Giants fans' expectations. But you can't deny that having him healthy and back in the lineup really helps solidify that Giants offensive line, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to. Hopefully, they do a better job blocking, because they just feel like they've been leaving Daniel Jones open to pretty much vulnerable to opposing defenses.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We've been seeing that a lot, too. I mean, we're going to be talking about the Jets offensive line in a couple of minutes, and it looks like Aaron Rodgers was running for his life earlier today during a joint practice against Tampa Bay. So both of our offensive lines have to figure it out. But Evan Neal being out of concussion protocol is a big step forward for the Giants. One other thing before we move on to the Jets, I wanted to get your opinion on, Dan. I saw that he's now a guard. He's actually drafted as a tackle by the Giants years ago. But former Giant Justin Pugh, now a guard, is in for a visit, and it looks like he might be joining the Giants. Apparently, he's expressed his desire to join the Giants. What would you think about getting him back in the mix for the offensive line over here?
I would love to see that. I feel like it's a low risk, high reward kind of deal. I'm all for it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I definitely agree with you on that. Low risk, high reward. And you know what? I mean, it's August 16th. He's not going to be getting big money. So definitely agree with you. But, one guy that did get big money. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. What were you going to say?
I feel like those little deals sometimes get a little overlooked, but it do play a factor into the championship.
No doubt about it, man, because sometimes those guys are the underbelly of the team, and those are the guys that do the dirty work and that the team really depends on, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you maybe don't realize it maybe early on, but then you realize later in the season you're gonna end up seeing a big play that may have made the difference between the success or not success of the season.
It's very true, man. It's very true. And to keep it rolling along here before we close out the show, talking about the Giants potentially signing a former Giant, bringing him back in the mix. Now talking about the Jets bringing in a former Viking as the Jets sign running back Dalvin Cook to a 1-year, $7 million base salary deal, but it could go up to as high as about $8.6 million with incentives. Seems to be a little insurance for running back Breece Hall coming off that blown out ACL last year. They just took him off the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, as they call it. So that's a really good sign for Breece Hall. That means he's going to be back in practice in the coming days. But bringing Dalvin Cook in the mix, I cannot argue with the thought process of, bringing as much talent as possible, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta bring in that debt. That really is a big difference.
Yeah, just like we were just talking about with the Giants, offensive line depth, running back depth. You need these guys, especially in training camp. You need these bodies to be there. And Dalvin Cook, a former, Pro Bowl running back, 4-time Pro Bowler, really can't argue with that at all. I also saw a weird stat that the Jets are the first team in NFL history to ever add a quarterback and running back in the same offseason who both made 4 out of the last 5 Pro Bowls. Whatever. I don't take that for what it's worth, but it made me laugh when I saw that. So very interesting. Very interesting. Nice to see Dalvin Cook in the fold. Don't forget the guy had 1,400 all-purpose yards last year, so he's not washed up. He only just turned 28. Also, offensive line concerns. That was a underlying thing in the most recent Hard Knocks episode, which we'll talk about now too, because in that episode, actually, I don't know if you've seen it, Dan. Have you seen it?
I didn't see this one yet. I have it on my DVR recorded. So I'm gonna.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because the interesting thing is that Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, has taken a little bit of heat from guys, specifically to a Jet fan and WFAN legend Joe Beningo has given him some fun because they're friends, so it's all in good fun. But saying that the coach is too nice. The coach is, a player's best friend. He's one of those guys. He's not like a Bill Parcells that's going to come down on guys when you need to, And who knows, maybe that coach is a thing of the past. But I thought it was really, really cool in this. They showed Robert Saleh, and I wish I could show the clip, but I don't want HBO and the NFL to flag our video like they definitely would and kick us off YouTube. And Coach Saleh was talking about in that speech that you can have the Hall of Fame quarterback. You can have high-priced running backs and a $10 million wide receiver and the offensive rookie of the year and all these different tools. But if you don't have a good offensive line and if the big boys up front aren't doing their job, then it all goes to shit. And he's 100% right. And he even said it in less friendly terms than I did. It almost sounded like a Rex Ryan promo from the Hard Knocks from 12, 13 years ago. But it was great, and it really showed that Robert Saleh isn't this pushover that a lot of people have said he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I just feel there's a lot of things that go on that we really don't see, and Hard Knocks somehow, I guess their cameras, whatever the access they got, really showed what we probably have not got a misjudge of what we saw on the outside.
It's true. It's been really good too, really good. So everybody, I highly recommend to keep checking in on that. And by the way, so we're just about to get out of here right now. We're gonna wrap up. I want to show one thing before we get out of here, but also before we get out of here, at the game earlier, we were discussing potentially doing a Patreon post-game version of the show just for Patreon members. And I was thinking of possibly doing it live if you were into that, Dan.
Down for that. Live post-game bells after the two major games here in the New York area have ended. The Giants and the Jets game have ended. Yeah, definitely down for doing that, and a little Patreon, and hopefully all of you can will sign up for that Patreon and help maybe alleviate the cost of me and Robert and I being able to attend that outdoor hockey game in the Meadowlands in February. Rangers on.
Consider it a GoFundMe. But so it still isn't 100% yet, but we're putting the idea out there, and we want to just see if there's any interest. So if anybody that listens to the show, and I was thinking it'd be something cheap, like $5, something like that, for which would be a show for the whole football season. It would run through the football season, a show after every Giants game and after every Jets game. So I feel like that would be really cool. Maybe we'll do a little wrap up segment with the whole week, and maybe even do like a little NFL betting thing too. Who knows? We just want to gauge the interest. So if anybody is interested in that, please just respond to the comments and tell us that you're interested. And if you are, that's something that we would definitely be considered doing. So really hope that that works out, and maybe we'll find a way to have some fun with it. So thank you, everybody. One last thing before we get out of here, Dan, as we're just about at the end here. I was gifted by my friend Dan today some baseball cards. So let's check this out real quick before we get out of here. In true, SNY fashion, right, Dan?
Yep, exactly. I gave promo cards from their Brooklyn Cycling. They're all cards.
All right, so let's see. We got we got ourselves a Matt Harvey.
Yep, that's a Matt Harvey. I believe that's 2017, as you can see the thing on the card on the front.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. You're right. Opening day 2017. All right. So it's a little Matt Hart. The second one was Noah Syndergaard.
Yep, that's a.
It's not really showing up too well on here, so
Yep.
might have to shorten the bit a little bit. But we'll show a couple. We'll show a couple more with the. There we go. Yoenis Cespedes.
Yep.
Right there. A Cespedes for the rest of us.
Yep.
There we go. He had a nice little run here for a couple of years. Oh, man. There we go, right here. The Grandy Man Ken, your friend and mine. Your friend from Milwaukee, Dan, right? It's not showing up.
I got him to sign a baseball when I saw the Mets on the road in Milwaukee.
There we go.
Super.
And since it's not really working too much, and the card after this sucks because it's Neil Walker, we will show. Oh, looks like Dan's gone.
I know I'm back. The phone was trying to get me.
Oh, your video is not up right now, and you're back. Perfect. Okay, so we're just about done. So who's ever ringing you, Dan, you can get back to them in a sec. And we got right here. Come on, the captain, David Wright. Number 5 in the scorecard, number 1 in our hearts, David Wright, coming at you right there. So a nice little group of cards there, right, Dan?
Yeah. Nice little group of cards there. I even got you the elusive promotional the set of the Seinfeld characters that I think they were handing out by the train station exit on a Seinfeld night a couple years ago, back in 2019. That you'll see there.
Oh yeah, let's see. We got a Cosmo Cramer right there. My namesake minus the K.
Yep.
We got a little Cosmo Cramer. Oh man, now this is an Elaine Bennett's card. I mean, come on, there we go.
Yep.
Whatever you do, don't ask her to dance.
Yep. Yep. It's like dry heat set the music.
And we got we'll show the last two just for what the heck. Little George Costanza right there.
I'm filming the show, Mom. Never mind, I have to tell my mom we're filming the show.
No problem. And last one, team captain, Jerry Seinfeld. Right there. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that little card segment at the end.
Yep.
All right. And I think, Dan, that's just about going to do it for us. Before we get out of here, do you have any plugs that you'd like to give for yourself?
Sure. Got to plug my account, Daniel Curlin, one word, Bobo718 DK on Instagram, Bobo103 NYC on Twitter. Also, tomorrow I'm doing a little one-off on Compound. They needed a fill-in segment because some people are on vacation at Compound. So me and Mike Bichetti are doing a little fill-in segment at in Compound Media. So
yes, that's awesome. I remember. I forgot. We should have promoted that earlier. But absolutely, make sure to watch Dan and Mike Bichetti tomorrow on Compound Media. Now, what time is that?
It's going to be at 1:30, but it'll also be on the archive.
Oh, okay. So absolutely, make sure to check that out. That's going to be a blast, Dan. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see how it turns out.
Oh yeah. So all right. So make sure to check Dan out tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Compound Media. We appreciate everybody checking it out. We appreciate everybody watching this show right now. You know where to find me at Cramer and Y, my last name, on Twitter. You can find the Best Seat in the House podcast at bsith_podcast. You can check us out, Best Seat in the House podcast, on Instagram too. Don't forget to subscribe and like our stuff on Rumble. We always appreciate that. And also, if you think that we've earned it, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. So thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our partially live from Citi Field episode of Best Seat. And for Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Cramer, and we'll catch you next week on Best Seat in the House podcast.